Yo! Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna tell a short story from spoiler anime Gachiakuta, episode 3. So without further ado, let's jump into the stories. The third episode of Gachiakuta opens immediately with a short yet strikingly powerful story panel, one that instantly grabs your attention. In this scene, we're introduced to a mysterious figure casually speaking with Engine through a choker communication device. Calmly and confidently, Engine informs the figure that he has discovered a certain child, a genius, a prodigy. And now he's heading back to the headquarters with one single purpose: to recruit this child as a janitor. Yes, just like himself, a cleaner of the forgotten and discarded. Hearing this, the mysterious man simply smiles. And without wasting another second, the scene abruptly shifts, cutting to a mysterious clinic somewhere deep within the city. You see, before Engine could even think about bringing Rudo to the janitor's base, he first had to ensure Rudo's survival. So naturally, he brought him to see a doctor. And in that moment, the old doctor, wrinkled and strange, immediately scolded him with a sharp voice. "You're lucky to be alive. What the hell happened to your body? If you had breathed that air a little longer, you would have died." Then without missing a beat, the doctor added, "That person is the one who saved you. And by the way, I'm not a man." The old bald figure said that while pointing to themselves. "I'm a woman." Hearing those words, Rudo was left stunned. But even so, he expressed his gratitude with a bow, thanking the strange doctor before following Engine once more. And then, midway through their journey back to base, Rudo suddenly spoke up. "Honestly, I don't want to join you. I just want information." Engine glanced sideways, replying with a sharp tone laced with grim truth. "You saw it with your own eyes, didn't you? How the sky people were treated after they were abducted. You can ask anyone who was there, sure. But sooner or later, once they know what you're really after, that'll be the end of you. What I'm trying to say is this: the world isn't as kind as you think. No one gives out answers for free. So for now, shut your mouth and follow me back to base, because once we're there, I'll introduce you to someone who might just hold all the answers you're looking for." Rudo fell silent, and in the end he agreed. He would follow Engine for now. A short time later, Rudo and Engine, now traveling together, finally arrived at a small, humble restaurant. It looked plain from the outside, but inside it was warm, surprisingly welcoming. Engine turned to Rudo and asked with a knowing smile, "Well, not bad, right? You looked hungry." Rudo didn't reply. He simply stared at the food, devouring it silently, unable to believe how delicious it was. How could a place like this, in the middle of such filth, serve something so comforting? There was something strange here, something off, yet it eased his heart. That moment marked the beginning of a deeper bond between the two. Engine finally began to explain. "In this world below, there's something hidden. Discarded objects, trash. We call them that. But here, trash has emotion. It has a soul." He leaned closer. At a certain point, the energy inside builds up. And when it does, a transformation happens. That transformation can give birth to savage creatures, like the aberrant trash monster you already saw with your own eyes. Engine's tone darkened. "These creatures live in the outer dump zones, far from the city, but they don't always stay there. Sometimes they sneak inside." Hearing this, Rudo frowned and asked, "Then shouldn't we build a fortress around it?" But Engine shook his head. "Humans can't be caged forever, and more importantly, ordinary weapons can't even touch these creatures. Their soul is their core." Rudo nodded slowly. "I understand." Suddenly, Engine pointed to the gloves Rudo wore. "With those, you can defeat them." Rudo froze, his expression clearly shocked. Engine continued, "You must learn to use trash as your weapon. If someone cherishes an object, truly cares for it over many years, that object becomes infused with soul. We call it Jinki." Rudo sat speechless. Everything Engine said felt real, tangible. And in that moment, Rudo remembered something from his past. Everything Recto once told him, Those life lessons from long ago, they were true. If Rudo loved and cared for the things around him, if he truly nurtured them, then one day those objects could gain a soul, and perhaps they could even come alive. At this point, there are a few critical facts we must underline. First, the monsters in this trash world possess a mental force called anima. To simplify, imagine it like chakra, ki, mana, or aura from other anime. But in the world of Gachiakuta, both humans and monsters have anima flowing within them. Second, objects that can be infused with anima and awakened by special individuals, called givers, are known as jinki, or vital instruments. Only jinki and nothing else can kill the aberrant monsters. The issue is, vital instruments can only be awakened after years of care and emotional bonding. At least that's what everyone believes. Although, this belief might soon be shattered by Rudo's own broken power. Now back to the story. Shortly afterward, Engine dropped one last bombshell. You and I, we are givers? I come from the janitor organization, Engine finally said, his tone turning firm. It's a massive organization dedicated to exterminating the ferocious aberrant creatures. And in practice, we rely on the power of givers. They're the core weapons of our entire operation. Slowly, Rudo began to understand everything. So that's why you want me to join? He asked. Because if I do, you'll tell me how to get back up there? To the surface? Engine gave a faint, half-hearted smile. To be honest with you, I don't know how. Rudo clenched his fists in frustration, his brows tightening with anger. But Engine quickly raised a hand, adding in his usual cocky tone, I did mention this earlier on the way here. You just weren't listening, probably because your brain's too stubborn. Then his gaze dropped to Rudo's gloves. By the way, where did you get those gloves? Rudo looked down at them. His voice was low and filled with memory. From my father. They're the only thing I have left of my parents. Engine stepped closer. Those gloves are worn out, practically falling apart. But I can tell. You've taken care of them. Keep doing that. Hold on to what's important to you and protect it for the rest of your life. Those words, simple as they were, hit something deep within Rudo. It was the first time anyone had ever said something like that to him. He stood still, overcome with quiet emotion. As long as you still have it, Engine added, never let it go. Thank you, Rudo whispered. But peace never lasted long. Just moments later, the calm was shattered. As if their relationship had to be built on chaos, another petty argument broke out between Engine and Rudo, just like always. Then, out of nowhere, a cat darted past and stole Rudo's money. Reflexively, Rudo grabbed a stick nearby and gave chase. He caught the cat, but just then a figure appeared. It was him, the mysterious man Engine had been talking to earlier through the choker. Hey kid, the man said coldly. Return that? Rudo looked up, confused. What do you mean? This is my money. What? Are you insane or something? But the man wasn't referring to the money. He pointed directly at the stick. That belongs to me. Huh? Rudo blinked, completely baffled. The stranger narrowed his eyes. Energy began to pulse in the air around him, swirling like invisible waves. You think you can walk away after stealing someone's jinky? And in that instant, Rudo realized something terrifying. This man wasn't normal. He was like Engine. He was also a janitor. The truth became undeniable the moment the man launched a brutal high-speed strike toward Rudo. A violent blast of energy exploded around them, shaking the ground and damaging the surrounding area. But strangely, the attack missed, deliberately. With a chilling tone, the man said, if you dare touch someone else's treasure, then you better be ready to pay the price. Rudo stood frozen. There was something in that voice, something that made his spine tingle. And then, the man said his name. Rudo! He knew his name. Rudo stared in disbelief. And then the man introduced himself. Listen closely. My name is Zanka. I am a giver of the janitor organization. His name echoed inside Rudo's head. Engine has entrusted you to me, Zanka continued flatly, but I didn't expect my first task would be to teach you some manners. Touch what doesn't belong to you, and I'll beat that lesson into your skull. Rudo instantly raised his hands in panic. Wait! I didn't steal anything. I was just chasing that cat. It stole my money. I didn't know the stick belonged to you. Zanka stared at him, piercing through Rudo's words with his eyes, evaluating their truth, and then, slowly, he spoke. I believe you. Your parents must have raised you well. I can see it in how you speak. The words pierced Rudo's heart. How could someone who had nearly blown him up just a moment ago say something like that? He bowed his head, voice soft. I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to touch it. I didn't know. Zanka let out a long sigh. His voice softened. I'm sorry too. I let my emotions get the better of me. That item, it's precious to me. I was just worried. Now he looked at Rudo more gently. Rudo couldn't hide his confusion. He had never experienced this kind of interaction before, especially not in the world above. It all felt strange, yet strangely warm. Zanka gave a subtle smile and asked, So, you're going to join janitor, right? It'll feel awkward at first, but I'm looking forward to working with you. As the tension faded between them, Zanka's curiosity took over. By the way, where's your jinky? Rudo looked at his hand, slightly unsure. Maybe these gloves? But I'm not sure what they can actually do. Zanka narrowed his eyes, studying them carefully. He seemed impressed. That's amazing. They're ancient, but the energy hasn't faded. Do you know what that means? It's seriously cool. Rudo felt something warm swell in his chest. His father's gloves. Finally acknowledged. Before long, the atmosphere grew more relaxed. They began joking with each other, as if the earlier fight had never even happened. Zanka even teased Rudo. What's with that face? Why does your smile look like a death glare? Are you mocking me? Rudo shook his head, looking genuinely confused. No, I've just never been good at smiling. A small playful argument followed, marking the beginning of their bizarre but growing bond. But in the midst of their laughter, Rudo suddenly became serious. Earlier you said my dream was pointless, but I want you to know one thing. I'll chase it with everything I've got, so don't ever underestimate it. Zanka's eyes sharpened, his smile faded, he slowly raised his weapon as if standing before a rival. From the beginning, he said, I knew we might never see eye to eye. Rudo nodded. Same here. But just before the moment could explode again, something strange happened. Rudo's gloves began to vibrate. A faint aura surged from them, glowing softly. Zanka stepped back, stunned. Wait, that's a jinky! The energy pulsed stronger. The gloves shifted, changing shape slightly, glowing with a gentle, unfamiliar light. Zanka's expression changed. No way! That means you can turn anything you touch into a jinky. You're not just a giver. You're the real thing, a true one. And with that discovery, a hidden truth began to unfold. Rudo possessed a rare ability, one that could possibly allow him to awaken any object, to breathe life into even the most broken relics, by the sheer force of his soul alone. And right at that moment, Zanka repeated everything he had said earlier, this time with his eyes locked onto the iron pipe in Rudo's hands. A pipe that had just been transformed into a jinky. Unbelievable. This was beyond logic. Beyond anything he had seen. The power this kid had, it felt like a cheat code. In this world, most people could only wield one jinky, and even that was already extraordinary. But him? This kid could turn any object he touched into a weapon. A jinky, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Yet Zanka's voice cut through the awe with cold conviction. But if that's all you've got, if all you're relying on is some fancy prodigy level gift, then you won't stand a chance against me in a real fight. Because me, I'm the product of blood, sweat, and grind. I was born without talent, but in a true battle, I've never lost. And with those words, Zanka moved. With just a single motion, so quick it was almost invisible, he launched an attack at Rudo with full force. Though Rudo managed to dodge the first strike by retreating one step back. Zanka didn't stop. He instantly transitioned into a second combo, relentless and clean. The follow-up struck true. Zanka's Jinky-powered strike slammed into Rudo's head, sending his body flying backwards with terrifying force, crashing hard into the opposite wall. And it didn't stop there. On the very same manga panel, Zanka spun his wooden staff with full speed and deadly precision. So fast the frame blurred with motion. And there, we saw it. Rudo's body couldn't move. He was completely overpowered, pounded relentlessly without mercy. Each blow landed like a hammer, until finally, Rudo collapsed, bruised, battered, barely able to lift himself from the ground. But just before he was completely knocked out, Rudo managed to reach for another object lying nearby. A weapon. Random, but close. And in that same instant, with whatever strength he had left, Rudo threw a desperate, sloppy punch, aimed straight at Zanka's face. It missed, but oddly enough, something did hit Zanka. At first, Zanka didn't even realize it. He thought it was just some dirt, maybe grime from the fight. But when he looked down at what Rudo was holding, it clicked. A plunger. A damn toilet plunger. And that meant the filth that just hit his face was human feces. Zanka froze. His mental state cracked. He instantly stopped attacking. And then, he collapsed. Right in front of Rudo. Seeing it all unfold, Rudo couldn't help but grin smugly. And to the audience he said, "Looks like my attack worked. I have no idea what this thing is, but whatever it is, it scared the hell out of him. Which means, my chances of winning just got a whole lot better." With a rush of new confidence, Rudo launched himself back into the fight. Strike after strike, left hook, right jab, overhead smash, side swipes. He let it all loose, charging with raw, awkward power. Zanka could only dodge. He scrambled, stumbled, trying to stay one step ahead of the disgusting plunger swinging toward him. He kept running, anything to avoid being touched by more poop. And then, after several minutes of the wildest chase scene imaginable, Rudo won. We see it clearly. Zanka's body lay sprawled out on the ground, completely defeated. And Rudo, he stood over him, triumphant, a satisfied grin on his face, plunger still in hand. Luckily, at that very moment, Engine arrived just in time to pick them up. He took one look at the two and immediately demanded they get in. He was in a rush, but also full of curiosity. As they started walking, Engine finally heard the full story. And when he realized what happened, he burst out laughing. His laughter echoed like thunder. Two of his precious rookie recruits had just fought an all-out battle using human poop. He couldn't believe it. Their clothes were dirty. Their faces were stained. It was absurd. But then came Ryu, who appeared just as the laughter settled. With a deadpan tone, he added some context for the audience. You know, Zanka is basically a prince in this world. A real high-born noble. So when his royal body got touched by literal human crap, he broke. Mentally and emotionally. And that was the moment. The three finally introduced themselves properly. That was the spark. The start of a friendship. A bond forged in chaos. Born from poop warfare. Insane, right? This anime's trash-themed world literally had its characters fight with actual garbage. And not just any garbage, toilet garbage. No wonder it's so entertaining. It's absurd, it's wild, it's fresh, and somehow, it works. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. And pardon for my real Filipino accent, guys. I tried to speak English but still not fluent with grammar. See you again in the next video. Ciao!